You've seen the car on paper, you've taken a look at the sneak peek images, and today in flesh is the all-new Nissan Magnite. Yes, it's the upcoming subcompact SUV from Nissan. It's carrying a whole lot of weight of expectations from the Japanese car maker, and it's going to compete in a very lucrative subcompact SUV segment here. So what's the car all about? We're taking a first look at Nissan's upcoming offering for the Indian market. Now, much of the success of how a subcompact SUV fares here in India depends on how it looks. So let's actually start with how the Magnite looks. The front grille looks really familiar because we've seen it somewhat in some of the Datsun cars, but it looks really, really dapper on the Magnite as well. Don't miss that all-new Nissan logo here, which really looks classy and sophisticated. But my favorite feature of the front face has to be the sleek-looking headlights right here, the L-shaped DRLs, and don't miss the fog lights. Now, the entire light setup on the front face of this car is LED. Also adding to the athletic character of the Magnite is a nicely sculpted bonnet, which gives it a rather menacing appeal from the front. Now, on the side is where things get really interesting. We spoke about how athletic, muscular the Magnite is to look from the front, but it's actually really magnetic to look at from the side. That's largely thanks to these nicely designed alloys on the 16-inch wheels. You get this particular car in a dual tone, so this is really nice fiery red here on the body, but the roof is done in black. And the roof rails that you see here are actually functional and not just optical, which will help you transport a wide variety of things, maybe a cycle or even luggage. You get a nice Magnite badging here. The new Nissan logo is also on the alloys. There is a body line running from the A pillar all the way across to the C pillar, and there is a slight sloping on the C pillar, but it does not cost any headroom when you actually sit inside the car. And we will in just a bit, but before we do that, we'll also take a look at the rear profile of this car. Now, my favorite part when it comes to how the Magnite looks is from the rear. That's because how simplistically stylish the car is from its rear profile. The wraparound LED taillights look really nice and smart. There is a Magnite badging. The font is not too large, and you get these silver plates also here. And the overall badging, there's turbo there and there is CVT here, is not overdone in any way. In fact, the use of chrome is also kept to a minimum. There's a little bit of chrome on the door handle, on the front. Overall, this car seems to be an attractive proposition without trying too hard. But since we are at the rear of this car, it's also important to mention the boot space. Nissan promises over 330 liters of boot space, and while it's really simple to open, and I can see what they mean by Magnite having a lot of luggage space, I do feel that when you're actually pulling a heavy bag and putting it inside this car, it may scuff the body right here. The load angle is a little too high, but we'll also focus on the specifics when we take this machine out on a review. Now, we've taken a look at what the Magnite has on offer on the outside, but it's time to now take a look at what the cabin of this car has on offer. Now, things get even more interesting when you step inside the Magnite. That's because Nissan has given a lot of attention to certain features and small details that you will definitely notice. Starting with how good the seats themselves are. Cushioning and the bolstering on the seats are pretty much at par with anything that you'll get in this segment, and then some more. The moment I sat inside the car, the level of cushioning, the amount of sinking that my body did on these seats seemed really good. Unfortunately, Nissan tells us that the seats are not ventilated. In terms of technology inside the car, you get a nice large 8-inch infotainment display that significantly offers wireless support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, what does that mean? That means essentially that you can connect your phone to the infotainment system without the need of any cables and wires. If you need to charge your phone, once again, you will not need any cables because the tech pack on the Magnite, and that's going to be launched with the car when it is launched in India, is also going to offer wireless charging. Now, the wireless charging is large enough for phones of pretty much any size out in the market, and sits really well like a crown on this nicely designed central console, which has a lot of storage space. Just under the wireless charging section is another storage space, and you get a USB phone charger, the push button for start-stop, the CVT transmission in this particular unit, and a bottle holder which it looks like will support and store any bottle of any size. Apart from this, as I mentioned, you get a whole lot of functionalities here. There is, most importantly, a 360-degree camera, which is fantastic. You see all of these colors right now. That's because we are in a controlled environment with spotlights. But out on the road, Nissan promises that this will enhance the safety feature inside the Magnite. But that's not all. One more press on the camera and you also get a side camera which will assist you in parallel parking. The dials for the AC control are also really nice, futuristic and sporty. The digital information on these dials are very visible, and once you rotate these dials, all the AC related information is also displayed on the 8-inch screen. Nissan tells us the design emphasis on the inside is giving the Magnite a horizontal appeal, and that's primarily defined by how these AC vents are shaped. There's also some amount of graphic to give this car a little premium look. There is a little bit of piano black finish on either sides, but largely there is quite a lot of use of hard plastics, but Nissan has still gone ahead and tried to give it a more upmarket feel despite those hard plastics. Now the 7-inch TFT screen for the driver is actually something brand new, and that's thanks to how large the displays are and how color coordinated all of it is. In fact, if you take a closer look, it seems like it's straight out of a DC or Marvel comic book. It will give out drive statistics, drive memory function, tire pressure monitoring system, and fuel consumption, and all of these can be controlled by steering mounted controls, which also double up as controls for your music system. Now another very interesting feature about the Magnite are the doors themselves. Nissan says that there is a denim dash finish here, again to accentuate the premium appeal of the vehicle, but even more interesting than that are how these doors shut. Take a look. There is a resounding thud, a confident thud when you shut the doors, and not a metallic clank, and that's because special materials have been used to give the car a premium appeal when you open and shut the doors, and also helps its NVH levels. Last but significantly not the least, just take a look at the glove compartment. The glove compartment is larger than what we've seen in several of Magnite's rivals in this category of vehicles, and it will store more than just your vehicle documents. Now there's a whole lot that's interesting, there's a whole lot that's happening for the front passengers, the driver and the front passenger, but Nissan promises that there are a lot many more interesting elements for the rear passengers as well, so let's jump out and get in from the rear. The moment you step inside these rear seats, the first thing that you notice is that you have a nice view of the surroundings. That's because the seats are positioned high, and thankfully you're not sitting too upright to get that commanding view. Now the window line is nicely positioned, so the windows appear large and lets the elements play in. Now I mentioned that Nissan has given attention to small little details, and the details lies in this armrest. Now the center armrest is like any other. You do get cup holders here, but you also get a slot to put your phone in. Now that's a really nice small little touch that can prove really helpful. In terms of space for the rear passengers, well, I'm frankly quite impressed because there is a lot of knee room here, decent amount of leg room, and this seat is positioned all the way back, and yet a 5 feet 8 person like me is sitting nice and comfortable. There is generous under thigh support and, well, nothing to complain about when it comes to headroom. You also get rear AC vents here, an absolutely crucial factor regardless of the size of the car in Indian climatic conditions, and you get a 12-volt charging socket. Want even more versatility? Well, these seats split 60-40 for more luggage space. The Magnite has over 330 liters of boot space, but with the seats split, you even get more luggage space for those weekend getaways. So let's take a look at how easy it is to actually fold these seats and make room for your luggage. So there you have it, the all-new upcoming Nissan Magnite. We've given you our first impression of this car from the outside as well as on the inside. and we just can't wait to take it out on Indian roads. Stay tuned for the review, and as always, stay safe, drive safe.